G'day viewers, well, as you can hear, I've got it running pretty minty.
Against the 1981 Harley Davidson. The Harley howled in
That's playing very nicely now. I put a correct belt on it.
I ran up
swapped the idler tyres between those two hubs, so the play's got more take-up torque now. The V1 still has plenty of torque, so awesome, it's fixed.
Opened the door, creeping in the shadows right up to the foot of their bed.
That might be copyrighted, so I've got to be careful there. But there's a matches sheeted Panasonic motor, 9V DC, 26th of May 1977. Bit of mice damage, that's the only mice damage it's got. It's only just nipped the wires for the battery, it's alright. This thing's working and playing nicely now. The flat belt was only a temporary, because it was a wrong shaped belt, but it was the right length. It's the wrong pulley to that belt and it just played faster. But I've had this all warm soapy water bath in the sink. This thing's clean, just letting it all dry. I don't know what's happened to the speaker here. I'm going to put some fix that, mend that with some bit of glue. Because if you keep basting it, it's going to rip and this work its way worse and damage the speaker even more and rattle. So I'm going to fix that before I put it back together. Meanwhile, this is going to dry. Very nice boombox. While I was fixing this boombox, I gave this boombox a good run after a good. I haven't been really using this since I scored it, but this all worked fine when I bought it. It just had to pull it apart and lubricate all the cassette mech. The belts are fine. The switches needed to clean. The belts were fine, as I said. They just had to lubricate the cassette mech. This thing plays nicely. Very nice boombox. Sounds very good. Anyway, I've also scored this one, a Toshiba clock radio. It's got oven style clock, which is kind of nice. But these suffer a very, very common failure with the gearbox in here. The gears give way. So it looks like I'll try and find one of these somewhere. I could fix it, but the gears are stripped in now, unfortunately. 1 RPM, 50 Hz Japan, Tamura. There's some test points there that have been cut off from the factory. But it's like a 1 hour meter type dial, so it's really cool. Genevas and things, all fully mechanical. It's just a bedside clock radio with a cassette deck in it. I've replaced the main drive belt, but the rewind there, the belt's disintegrated. And the idler tyre there, that's disintegrated too, so it has bugger all take-up torque on playback. The recording selector switch there was dirty as all get out. I couldn't get any signal until I sprayed it with deoxit and got some signal out of it. But it's an old Toshiba. Really nicely built. You got an aux input, remote with microphone, line in, mono only, monitor to monitor what you're recording. So set the volume control knob minimum position when recording from the microphone or telephone pickup to avoid acoustic feedback. Or you can hook your phone up to this, record some telemarketers and play it back in the next phone call. Nice. There's a little speaker there. Not a very good sounding speaker, but it still sounds pretty okay for something like this. This is where's a motor in there? I can't set a date code in the motor, so they'd probably be as old as this one. Or probably be a year earlier. Turn that down so they don't infringe copyright. But yeah, there's probably like 76 or something. There's a date, something on the side of the motor, I can't read it properly there. But to get to this cassette mech, it's a bit of a nightmare. As you can see there, I don't want to break any wires off, so I've got to be very careful. There's the old transistors. Old style metal canned transistors there. I does try to play a tap. I've got to try and help spin this manually so the take-up works. It does actually play. This is going to be a bit of a challenge. The challenging thing, because it's so packed very well tightly together to save on space, I don't want to break any wires off. That's a challenging part with repairing old tape decks. But I've cleaned all the switches. This thing works and performs quite well. This is back when Toshiba was called Tokyo Shibara. Well, there's just two towns in Japan, Tokyo and a town called Shibara, and that's how they got the name, Toshiba. It's pretty cool how they did that, how it got its name. Could I be run off 110, 120, 220, 240 volt, 50 or 60 hertz, 14 watts. But this is only a 50 hertz only motor anyway, so even if the clock did work properly mechanically, it'd be faster on 60 hertz. There is a tap somewhere here you can change the select the voltage. There's an inductive thing here on the FM antenna which induces into the power cord, the antenna for the FM. Gives you the option of putting a pop area on that, which is cool. Really solid the broken AM antenna external area there. It's a very nicely made little unit. The Japanese certainly made good stuff back then. They built tanks. Anyway, it's been getting hot that with this stuff. That just goes in a series of a lamp, the light bulb in there, which is still all works. There is a bit of a burn spot in this face plate here though, because it's been stuck and it hasn't worked and it just got hot and just sat there. How cool is that? I saw they're gonna I don't know if you can still buy these though. Could it be real nice? Or pull it apart, but it's actually really well sealed, this unit here. You got your motor, the inducer's current inside there was a rotor inside that sealed unit, and all the gearing is inside here. So it's very well made and sealed up. But it just doesn't turn anymore, just the gears have gone. Anyway, that's my next project. What model is it? RT232F. Beautiful wood grain sides too. And actually made of wood. Nice. Proper cool stuff from the 70s. Anyway, thanks for watching. G'day viewers, just to follow up. Got the speaker cone repaired with a bit of glue there. Bit of wood glue there. It's not in the critical part, but it will reinforce that damage nicely. Let's get that little tiny gap there to fill up. Missed a gap there. There we go. Perfect. That's all it has to do. That'll work really well to fix that cone, and when it dries I'll barely see it. But this thing's played through the cassette, 90-minute cassette nicely, so this thing's working beautifully. I think there was just the tiniest little bit of wow and flutter in it, but that probably could be just down in the motor. Might need a drop of oil on the shaft. Maybe, but it's barely noticeable anyway for most of the tracks on that tape. There's a manufacturers I couldn't remember before, Bigston Corp, made in Japan. I googled it, Bigston Corp, I think it's the same company, they're based in Illinois, America. It's a Bigston cassette mechanism. It works quite well. Anyway, time to reassemble this and it's good to go. Now I can move on to this one. I'll have to take the mech out of this thing completely. I've got to be very careful to break any wires off, otherwise I'll lose track where the wires go back on. And then it'll be really fun. But anyway, the take up the rewind, the take up for the rewind on the tyre idler for the playback are nothing but just molten chocolate. They're just gone gummy. It did play a tape, but I didn't play it for very long. I had to keep fast forwarding it and playing bits at a time so I wouldn't chew the tape up. But it did seem to play okay. I deoxided all the switches and it was actually running quite well. It played with the correct speed and everything. Okay viewers, I managed to take the cassette mech out of this thing. It was easier than I thought. Replace the main idler on the front for the take up, and it works now. Lubricated the counter, that works. And I haven't quite got the right size flat dot for the rewind hub, which is has to move as it engages. As it engages on the capstan when I press rewind, that's the only thing I'm going to fix on it. Some Italian music. That didn't quite release all the way for pause, did it? So to rewind the tape, I have to fast forward it on the other side. No auto stop there, that works nicely. Good switches, nice. So for now, this thing's working pretty well and it's playing cassettes again, which is all I wanted to do for now. That's 99% of that thing's problem solved. Just the take up, the idler and the belt for the rewind, that's it. Anyway, that'll be enough for now. Thanks for watching.